Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Live here today with Suzy and Tiffany. We're going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to talk about, and I'm going to introduce myself and then let Tiffany introduce herself. But this is going to be our weekly podcast that we're intending to put out there with.
We're trying so hard, y'all. You have
We'll
no
be
idea.
giving lots of valuable information just about real estate photography, the area, stuff going on.
Yeah.
We are based out of Somerville, South Carolina, which is right outside of the Charleston area. Very
Yes.
popular for tourist destination, wedding destination, and everything else.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to
You
move here, retire here. We have all the beautiful beaches and downtown. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the importance. Tiffany is actually a previous client that became a friend and now works with me
yeah. No, you're
for,
my client.
yes, exactly, for real estate photography. So we work hand in hand together. And, we were going to talk a little today about the importance of getting a great listing agent, a great photographer, how that works together,
Yeah.
prepping your house to sell, tips and tricks there. And obviously, the goal of all of us is to get you the most money and sell in the least amount of time, and
Right.
the importance of our job together. So, I am Suzy Torres. I am a local Somerville real estate agent here. I've been a full time agent for over 17 years with Carolina One Real Estate. Low Country Elite Group is my team. And so, let me introduce Tiffany here. Tiffany, you want to
Hi.
introduce yourself?
Yeah,
And
I'm Tiffany Foley. I recently started my own photography business this year called Palmetto Real Estate Photography. I've been doing real estate photography for almost 10 years, and I think we've been together about that long.
yeah,
I do pictures, photos, Matterport tour, aerials, video, all of it. And all of it is so important in the real estate market right now, especially. So, but yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Tiffany, I don't know if everybody knows what Matterport is. Explain that.
Well, Matterport is a virtual tour that allows a person to walk through the home virtually on the internet. And right now, something that's super cool with Matterport is you can connect an Oculus or the new Apple
Oh,
thing
I didn't know you
to
could do
where
that.
you are
Yes.
literally like walking through virtually.
And
So,
so if you don't have that system, just so you guys understand, you can actually click on where you're looking around as if
right.
you're walking through
Right.
the
So
property.
right. So I will set up the camera. It does a 360 tour and I move it about every 5 to 6 feet throughout the home. So somebody can actually go into pretty much every corner of the home and look around, look up and down. They can walk in the pantry, walk through a Jack and Jill bathroom. I think it's the most important thing when you have a kind of an intricate layout. If
Hmm.
you have sort of a different floor
Right.
plan or something that sets that home apart. One thing I love is when the laundry room connects to the master closet.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I love that so much. And I think that in pictures, it's really hard to show some of those details when you're
Right.
looking at a floor plan.
Right.
So that's why it's so important to have some kind of a video or the virtual tour. Let me tell you though, speaking to you as an agent, one thing that I think is important about the Matterport is that clients love it.
Hmm.
So when you're going to like a listing appointment
Right.
and you can show these prospective clients like, oh, this is something I offer. Literally every home I go into and the homeowners are there, their mind is blown. They're like, oh, this is like the coolest thing
Right.
ever.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just a great thing for your own branding, to
Right.
be able to offer to prospective clients. But no, Matterport is kind of, it's not cutting edge. It's been around for a long time, but it's a technology that no one has come close to beating yet.
Hmm.
And I just think that it's something really important, in a competitive market, especially
No,
that
I
you
totally
offer.
agree. And the amount of time that people put in their searches and looking at all the information online, because this is going to be
Oh,
focused in the
yeah,
listing online. So when
right,
people click on the listing, if they're, on Zillow or Realtor.com, they're able to actually, click on, walk through, look up, look
right,
this way, look around.
right. Well, and
Um,
I know on Zillow, that's a way that people can filter. So, there are some people that only want to look at homes that have some sort of a walkthrough product added onto it just
right,
because especially if they're out of town or
right.
it eliminates a lot of time from having to go and view a home when you can walk through it yourself right on the computer.
And there is a big difference versus, if you're clicking through pictures, obviously, if you have every room photographed, you could get an idea. But, you're clicking through and you're going, okay, floors and walls. Is this, am I in
Right.
the dining? If,
Right.
especially if the
It's
house is
like a
empty.
puzzle trying
Yeah.
to put the pieces of the
Hmm.
puzzle together.
Right.
Yeah.
And the nice part, a lot of people, room size and dimensions is
Mhm.
important.
Right.
And so, they may not even want to look at a house unless the master is at least, 12 by
Right.
12. And so the Matterport incorporates all the measurements of all the rooms, just like you were looking at like a builder floor plan.
Yeah.
So that way, you could get an idea, okay, does grandma's curio, cabinet fit into the dining room that is important and a must have for me to have in
Right.
the house? So,
Yeah, it's super important, and I know you do it on every single listing,
hmm.
which I
Yes.
think is important too because it shows, that every listing is a priority for
Right.
you that you're going to invest in, and it's just part of your brand, which
Absolutely.
I think is important.
Whether, it's a $50,000 mobile home in the country, or,
Mhm.
a $2 million, beach house on
Right.
on the island.
Right.
I do the same thing for each one. And talking about that, there's a lot of stuff I do as a listing agent prior to Tiffany coming out to do the
Mhm.
pictures. So, one important thing is, obviously having professional photography,
Right.
versus an agent that's walking through with their cell phone. It's just getting mediocre pictures,
Mhm.
and as well as, not the, like we talked about, measurements and videos and walkthroughs and things of that nature. So it makes a big difference. And,
Right.
even if you have a great iPhone taking good pictures, she sends it through a process and a processor afterwards that's going to help. If it's dark outside, you can't help it
Right.
that day. It's going to lighten it up, brighten it up, make
Right.
it look like that.
There's
you
an
know
obvious difference when
hmm.
you are scrolling through, a search
Yes.
engine on the computer of a realtor who goes in with their cell phone. Even though cell phones take beautiful
Right.
pictures now, there's a big difference.
Sure.
There's a lot of obvious tips and tricks that we do that, set us apart, but
Right.
also the type of processing and how, we can see outside the window
Sure.
and inside at the same time. It's definitely worth the expense
Yes.
because it's remarkable when, and it's crazy to me that there are agents that still take their own pictures, and the statistics show that
Hmm.
when you hire a professional photographer your home's going to sell. I think it's like 30% faster is
Hmm.
what they say,
Hmm.
and for up to $1 million home it can sell for like $10 to $15,000 more.
Sure.
So you're getting more clicks, more views, more traffic.
Well, plus it's step one, right? I mean, people, when they're going to view the house online first, a couple clicks and swipe throughs the first few pictures. If it's not
Hmm.
appealing, and the pictures just look, it's dark, it's not, that
Right.
they're not even going to step foot in the door to
Right.
view the property. They're
Right.
just immediately going to discount it.
Right.
So, you know, that's very important. But before we get to her job,
Hmm.
I do my job in prepping it for her job,
Yes.
because that is a very big key piece as well. She could do her
Huge.
job as good as possible and
Right.
edit and things like that. But if she's walking into, a cluttered living room and there's,
Hmm.
things all over the place, nothing's put together,
Right.
it looks tight and small,
Yeah, and dark. Right.
she can make that photograph light and all that, but it's still not going to show
Right.
the house, well.
Hmm.
So that's where my job comes in before she walks in the door. So, as part of what I do as a listing agent is, work with the seller and staging and prepping the property before
Hmm.
the photographer gets there. So that way we could showcase everything the best we can so she could do the
Right.
job, the best she can. So then once I get her job back, I'm able to, market it online
Right.
out there, and it's just going to show, like a model
Hmm.
house. And
Right.
the rooms are going to look,
Hmm.
big and open, and people are able to visualize themselves living in
Right.
the property versus, look focusing on your stuff versus the
Right. And
house.
honestly, that's the most important
Hmm.
part of getting a home ready for photography
Right.
is by decluttering and creating a space that anyone can walk into or look in, pictures obviously,
Sure.
and imagine their belongings and, their style, their taste. And, that's the most important
Right,
part.
absolutely. And a perfect example is, how you feel as a buyer walking through one of those beautifully decorated, open, blank slate model
Model
homes,
homes.
for new construction neighborhoods. So
Right.
that's a perfect example. But what I'll do is I'll first walk through, and our goal is to go room by room to focus on showcasing the house. So, there might be some projects that need to be done first.
Mhm.
Painting is a huge one for prior to
Right.
photography and selling. I always say that painting is one of the least expensive things you can do with the biggest return on your investment.
1,000%.
As far as the house shows, smells, looks, shows online. I always say a light neutral color, and we walk through room by room. If there's a bright orange wall or things like that, that
Mhm.
great that you enjoyed it. It was your house, your taste during that time. But the way that it shows online, something as simple as a bright paint color in a room can immediately turn somebody off and not even look further through
Right.
pictures on the house. So
Right.
I'll first do a to-do list on if things of that nature need to be done first. So, painting,
Mhm.
flooring, things like that. So we walk through, we go through that, and then I go room by room for staging. So if the house is occupied, you're living in the house, obviously we understand you're living in the
Yeah.
house and work with you on the items, that you use on a daily basis to
Mhm.
keep it where it is. But you know, I'm going through with the angle of her eye,
Mhm.
with the tips and tricks of what's going to look best and photograph well. So,
Right.
do we need to remove a couple pieces of furniture? Does this look too cluttered and make the space look small? Do we need to, take down personal things where people will walk in and look, oh, that's who
Yeah.
lives here, and
Right. And
mhm,
I think people need to remember they're hiring an experienced person, and they need to trust, you coming in, that you are going to give them these tips to help them sell their home for as much money as possible.
sure,
You're not trying to hurt their feelings, you're not trying to
exactly,
insult them. You are trying to create the best sales product possible
sure,
so they can make the most money. And I see that a lot where, homeowners get their feelings hurt after the agent or the stager or someone has come in,
yeah,
and they're like, oh, this is my home and my things, but we're not selling your home and your things.
right,
We're selling a home.
right, right.
Yeah.
And it is huge. It makes
Right.
a big difference, like we said, both
Hmm.
online and when people walk
Right.
through as well.
Right. Well, you were talking about going in and telling them just things maintenance wise. And
Hmm.
I think that always start with your agent before you go and do a bunch of projects. Because I remember
Sure,
when I was selling my house, I was like, oh, I need to do this, this, and this. And you were like, no.
right.
Like, you need to focus on this, this, and this. The
Prioritize,
right.
yeah,
And I think a lot of people probably do go and spin their wheels and spend money
sure.
upgrading or fixing things that really don't matter.
Or make a difference in
Right. And
price or
that's
how
why
it
your
shows. Right.
experience is so important, and why they need to start with
Sure.
you and let you kind of guide them over how to prioritize it and what's
And
important.
you're exactly right. And a lot of people think, well, I'm not going to call the agent until I've
Right.
gone through this list of things, right?
Right.
Or I don't want the agent coming over seeing the house the way it looks right now. So that's completely wrong. Please, I have so many that do call me early, and then
Mhm.
it's helpful because I'm able to help prioritize, and we could come up with a plan. If for example you want to make sure that you are listed, closed, and moved by June, we will meet, in December and
Right.
say, okay, this is the average time on market for the house. This would be about an expected time. So this would be a good time frame to list. We'll want to list by say March
Right.
1st if you want to be moved
Mhm.
by June 1st. And you have 3 months to get the house ready. So let's walk through the house and go through, what needs to be done prior to pictures,
Mhm.
and then maybe there's some things too that can be done after pictures, but
Right.
would be good to be done before like a home inspection,
Inspection.
like,
Right.
maintenance in your HVAC, things of that nature that aren't going to come up in
Yeah.
the pictures,
Yeah.
but are important as an agent to do ahead of time, just to
Things
try to.
you know are going to be
Right,
an issue later on.
right.
Let's address it now,
Hmm.
but it doesn't necessarily need to be done for photographs.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so we'll walk through and talk about staging in each room, and as an agent, I have a storage unit as well. I don't personally carry full, bedroom furnishings and things like that,
Right.
but I have the accessories for whether it's a current house that we've removed their personal pictures and things, and we need to bring in
A
just a
little,
couple blank slates,
right.
white
Some
orchids,
decor.
things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's an empty house and we just want to have a little pop of
Right.
color in the kitchen, in the
Hmm.
bathrooms, and things like that. Or, I do have a stager that will bring in full
Yeah.
furnishings for empty
I
houses
think
too.
a
So it
lot of
just
the
depends on the
times
situations.
that you are able to go in and use kind of what the homeowner has,
Right.
by just making updates, white bedding,
Sure.
let's bring in some white towels, but still utilizing the things that are
Right.
already there,
Yep.
for the most part.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for the things that need to be added, like I said, a couple flowers
Right.
here and there,
Right.
I
For the
bring those
most
things.
part, I think it's just getting them to declutter.
Right.
And I know one thing I
And be
did was I
personalized.
got a storage unit
Yes.
and just moved everything I could besides the basics
Right.
into the storage unit and then just tried to declutter as much as possible. And I think that was your recommendation. And it, even though you're moving twice, it makes it so much easier
Right.
showing and, just having that blank slate, and it's easier to keep everything clean
Right.
during that
Yeah. Less
process.
stuff to dust
Right.
and
And
move
your kids
around.
don't have all their junk to haul out all the, anytime you
Hmm.
turn your back. So I think that was a great tip that you
Yeah.
gave me.
Yeah. Well, and I always tell people too, honestly, you have to pack the stuff and
And
move it anyways.
right.
And so it's less packing and stuff that you have to do once we get the contract started.
Right.
You already have, and it's all those little things that are take a while to pack up.
Yes.
So those are already done. That's out of
Yeah.
the way. And you're talking about storage unit, but also, it is okay for, those items that don't have to be obviously in a heated and cooled space. If you pack those up and put them in the garage,
Sure.
we don't photograph the inside of a garage.
Right.
So, and it's completely normal for sellers to be in the process of moving, of
Right.
course.
Right.
So, you can use like the garage
Secondary
space.
closets.
Right.
Yeah.
Things
Yeah.
like that too. So, you have those options, and that's perfectly fine to utilize spaces, inside the house if you have
Hmm.
those spaces open as well.
Right.
You just didn't have extra
I
garage
didn't, I
space.
had no space. No, that was why we were
That
moving.
was
There
part of the
was,
reason for
yeah,
the move, right?
we had,
Exactly.
yeah, no space.
So, let's talk about some other things that both you and I run into that are important. Um, Tell me about smells.
Oh gosh. Well, I am one of the first people that walks in the home after
Bef-
it's ready to go.
right, and right
Everybody's done
before a
all the
buyer's going to
things
walk in the door.
exactly. And
Hmm.
even though what I do is not going to portray the smell, I feel like I go in so many times and I just want, I want to tell, and I will tell the agent, like, hey, did you know that there's strong pet odor or smoker
Sure,
or whatever?
sure.
But I think that that's something that needs to be addressed and is as important as the visual
Staging,
part,
yeah,
right?
right.
Because when you go in, that's your very first
Impression.
impression is the smell.
And if you are hit
And
in the face
yes,
with smoke or pets or,
yeah,
heavy spices from cooking,
right.
just anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that it gets overlooked a lot, and I think that something that, a lot of agents don't want to hurt their clients'
Hmm.
feelings. And so the solution is to go and put a bunch of plugins in the wall.
Don't
Don't do
do
that.
that.
Don't do that. No.
Yes.
So, and talking about painting, that is, one benefit of throwing a fresh coat of
Yes.
paint on the wall
It
is that it does help eliminate a lot
it
of the
takes out
odor
because a lot of
problems.
odor sometimes gets absorbed in the wall.
Yes.
Plus, there's
Well,
the
and
fresh
it's you
paint
walk
smell.
in and smell fresh paint
Right.
versus whatever,
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
the fresh paint as well as cleaning carpets, having a professional carpet
Hmm.
cleaning come out. I always say to do that, right before pictures because that's going to be right before typically showings will start right the day after pictures if we're
Right.
ready to go online because they send them
Hmm.
back right away. So the cleaning the carpets not only freshens and pops up the carpet and
Yeah.
makes it look fresher and
Right.
newer for pictures, but also
Mhm.
will help with the
Yeah.
smells. But yes, the plugins I
Oh,
feel like are a number one. A buyer walks in and it smells like a covered up smell, and
right.
they see plugins everywhere, and they
Right.
think,
What
okay,
are they
what
hiding?
what is it that's being covered up? Or
Mhm.
you're smelling that smell with like
Right.
country fresh potpourri over
Right.
it.
Well, and a lot of people are just sensitive to it anyways, and it's just a turn off,
Mhm.
It's yeah. And
No,
it's
but
not
she's right.
hiding
We could
anything.
she could do I could do my job great. She could do her job great.
Mhm.
We can make it look great online, and then you get to the door, open the door, and
Mm.
that could be the showstopper right
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
another very important thing, and great to have. You essentially are having your first check with the real estate agent, right? And then the second check with the photographer, because she does her job by
Right.
communicating to you as a seller if you're there, or
Mhm.
me as the agent afterwards, leaving the property saying, hey, you know what? Everything looked great. Photographs went well, but
Yeah.
maybe you should take care of this ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then, I can have that conversation or figure out what the plan is. Do we need to clean the carpet? Do we need to bring, like I have an ozonator?
Mhm.
Sometimes like a cat smell, even if it's been cleaned, you
Right.
still pick it up. And you as a seller might not know because you're used to it. I have pets,
Mhm.
so I don't necessarily smell it. But when somebody comes in my house, I'm
Right.
sure they do, especially if they don't have pets, right?
Right.
So I could bring that in and say, okay, we have everything ready to go, but why don't we wait 2 days before we start showing? Let's run this, get this nice and clean,
Yeah.
open it, so that way, we're not doing our job by getting them to the door and then not doing our
Right.
job
And
by them.
again, that is just you trying to help them
Right.
get the most money, the
Sure.
most offers. Right.
Right.
It's nothing personal.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to take out the immediate objections.
Right.
And, I feel like a lot of times if I can relate the seller to how they feel as a buyer, and,
Mhm.
a lot of times, right, we're selling their house so they can buy another one. So, relating it to, hey,
Mhm.
remember when we walked through,
Right.
123 Main Street, and you were like, oh, this, look at all the stuff here, and
Right.
it's dirty and
And I would rather hear it from my agent than on feedback because there's
correct.
nothing more humbling
Right.
than getting that feedback and,
You know,
right.
yeah, well, your house smelled like cat, or
Right.
yeah,
Right.
it really stunk. Like we couldn't figure out where the smell, what the smell,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, all these things are super important,
Yeah.
and that's our job to work with you on that. As a listing agent,
Right.
I cover the expense of everything. My time, my staging, the photography, the Matterport, the measurements. That's all part of my job as
Yeah.
a listing agent. So, I know a lot of people think, well, how much is it going to cost if we do the photography? Well, that's something I include with my
Yeah,
service.
that's what a good agent. When you are interviewing,
Right.
with your agent, that's an important question to ask because
Sure.
not all agents
Right.
offer professional photography. Not
Sure.
all agents are going to cover these costs.
Right.
They might come down to crunch time and it pop up. It would you can are there some agents that can include that in closing?
Yes, or there's also some agents that might charge a marketing fee up front when they take the listing. So
Yeah.
that's something
That's an
as well.
important question to ask.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is this included in your service that,
Right.
that I'm paying for, that we're
Mhm.
working with?
Yeah.
And is there anything up front, or
Mhm.
any type of fee if I cancel, or any additional fee at closing? So yeah, mine is just all included
Yeah.
in my service. Nothing
Yeah.
up front, nothing additional.
Mhm.
And that's branding. That's my name. That's, you know, uh my essentially my artwork, my product, when I'm putting
Right.
a listing out there
Right.
online, I'm attached to that. It's
Well, and
showing a representation of my
that's what
work.
sets a good agent
Hmm.
apart. It's all of these little details that an unexperienced agent might just not know,
Sure.
or a homeowner obviously is not going to know the ins and outs like an experienced agent.
Right.
Right.
Right. Or have the money to
True.
pay to put it even in the time we talk about, treating every listing the same, no matter price
Mhm.
point and things of that nature. Even during the time that we were selling houses before they even hit the market. As somebody's driving by, they see you're putting a sign in.
Mhm.
We haven't even put the listing in. They decide to write the offer. You know, um, I would still go through those same process because you never know. Even if you accept a full price cash
Right.
offer, before it hits the market, things can happen. Until it's signed, sealed, and delivered that day
Right.
of
A
closing.
lot of agents take the, market for granted,
Right.
and they think, "Oh, this is going to sell itself. I don't need to invest the time or the
Sure.
money in
Sure.
marketing it."
Yeah. There's nothing in
And
this in inventory in this price point.
right.
No problem.
Right. Let me just put a little, front shot of the house
Sure.
and we're going to have 10
Mhm.
shots. And that's true. But also, you're eliminating a lot of prospective buyers,
Sure.
that
Backup
for
offers.
backup offers, competitive offers.
Right.
Yeah,
And the biggest thing again, if that sale falls through.
exactly. And that
And
happens a lot.
it does.
Yeah,
It does. Whether it's an
especially these
inspection or
days.
yes, there's lots of different things that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Another reason it's important to have, a
A,
good agent, even when you're under contract, walking through each one of those steps and staying in touch with each one of the parties in the
mm-hmm.
transaction. You know, it's not just okay. We've worked together, accepting a contract. No, we need to, stay in touch with the loan officer if the buyer has
Right.
financing, getting updates on that throughout the process
Mm-hmm.
with the attorney and the title work, making
Yeah.
sure, I mean, all the things behind the scenes to walk through to make sure everything's happening and the time frame it's supposed to in the contract to make sure it does close. But back to, the pictures and selling it before it hits the market. So if a sale falls through, you're going to have to find another buyer and you need to be ready to go. So we
Right.
want, again, to showcase that. And not just that, even if that contract went through and you close it out, that's the representation of that house
Right.
stuck in Zillow forever, during that, when
Right.
that listing
Well, and I
closed and
know when,
things like that. So when people are looking
right.
or, an appraiser wants a comparable and they're trying to look at it doesn't
Right.
show well until,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, a friend of mine actually was just interviewing agents, and we were going through, there were some agents that came up that I had never worked with
Mhm.
before. So
Mhm.
I'm going and Googling these agents. And, when I Google that agent and pull up their prior listings,
Listings.
right, that's what you're looking
Right.
at. And
How
I,
did they look?
right. And if somebody says, "Oh, I used such and
Right.
such, they were great, blah, blah, blah," and I go and Google them and that's what I see, I'm going to be like, "Hell no,
Yeah,
yeah, I
exactly.
don't want my house portrayed like that."
Right, right. They have one picture of the front that's dark and
Right.
that's it. There's
Right.
nothing else on there
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's huge on so many levels.
Right.
And again, like I said, that to me, my name's on it. That's a representation of me and the work that I do and
Sure.
how I represent my clients.
Yeah.
So, because that's the bottom line. That's my
It's
job
all
is
part
to
of the brand, of
represent.
your brand.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So, very important to meet with the agent to figure out again repairs, maintenance, things like that, staging
Mhm.
before we bring Tiffany in for the pictures
Right.
and measurements. And her job is very important for processing the pictures, making those look great,
Right.
doing all the
Well,
measurements.
when you think about selling your home, I want to try to compare it to selling anything.
Hmm.
And when you're
Right?
selling something and you're putting a picture of it, if you have an Etsy store
Yes.
and you're selling a product, you're going to stage that product. You're going to use
Yes.
lighting. You're going to take a beautiful picture. You're going to,
Maybe
you
put
know,
a backdrop behind
exactly,
it.
exactly. And it's the same thing with a home. You want to show that home as if you're selling a piece of Tiffany jewelry,
Hmm.
and you want it to look the absolute best online
Yep.
because that's where your buyers are coming from. Most people all start their search online. I don't have you had a bu- have you had a buyer, let's say in the last 5 years, that has not looked at homes on the internet?
No.
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 Right. Everybody goes online.
I
That's
mean,
where they start.
even my clients in their 90s, I mean,
Yeah.
that's just the way of the world now.
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't think you can. I guess you can. I can't say you can. get by without, having part of our life attached to the internet.
Right, right. And
Hmm.
so you want to market your home
Hmm.
the best way possible. And and there's just so many great technology, now. These, beautifully curated and edited videos, with the
Hmm.
music and all of the beautiful editing and it's also a lifestyle thing
Right.
too. And then just being able to walk down the Matterport. And something else about the Matterport is the Matterport doesn't lie. We can't edit the Matterport to show, to take out a hole in the wall
Right.
or, and
Right.
that's something nice too, as a
It's a
buyer
true you have
representation.
the beautiful that are edited
Sure.
pictures with
Mm-hmm.
lighting and things, but like she said, the Matterport is a true representation of
Exactly.
what it actually is to walk through that. It cannot be, she can't
I
lighten
can't
and dark
take
and
right. I can't take out imperfections
right.
or, now granted with pictures, like let's say that a home is all agreeable gray and
Hmm.
they have their kids' room that's bubblegum pink
Sure.
and they say, "Oh, this weekend we're painting it this color."
Hmm.
I can Photoshop those walls
Okay.
to be that
That's
color.
good, no doubt.
Yeah,
Okay.
now technically the way that I present it is that it has to represent when they show the house.
Right. Right. You
So
get
if there's a hole that needs patched, I can fix it as long as it's going to be
be
patched
patched
before,
before a
right? Because
buyer walks in the
that would
door.
fall back on you.
Right.
You would get in
Yeah.
trouble for misrepresenting the
Representation.
house. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes,
But
yes.
anyways, and that's something with the Matterport though, is a buyer looking
Right.
through is that it is what it is.
Well, and it helps
It's very
eliminate
accurate.
wasting everybody's time because
Yes.
how many times, have I walked a buyer through and then they're like,
This
no,
does
this
not
isn't
look
it.
like the
Yeah,
pictures.
yes. How many?
Yeah.
This does not look like.
Right.
So yes, the photographer and the agent did a great job with the
Mhm.
pictures, but guess what? The buyers know, like, okay,
Yeah.
so it does help with that because again, you get a combination of the beautifully edited pictures,
Right.
that showcase it well to get people, to market it well, but also a true representation of the feeling as you walk through and look, to of the room size instead of just the beautiful wide angle
Yeah.
lens that makes the room look
Yeah.
bigger, which is great. But when they get there and they're like, okay, and they know the room dimension sizes too
Right.
ahead of time.
Right.
So,
And the layout.
mhm,
There are times where they're like, "Oh, I had no idea that the master was here."
right,
I thought in pictures it was here and I
right.
don't, that
Well,
kind of thing.
especially
Yeah.
when they're if it's a vacant house, you're scrolling through just pictures and
Right.
you don't have a video or a
Mhm.
floor plan, and it's floors, walls, floors, walls, floors, walls. So,
Mhm.
is this the dining room? Is this the office? Is this
Right.
you know? So yes, it gives a very good representation and picture
Yeah.
online, where you're still also getting the marketing piece
Right.
of the beautiful edited photos
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's, kind of marketing the photography part. Virtual staging is a really cool thing too when you have those vacant houses
Hmm.
because it will allow the person hit on pictures
To
to
visualize
see
how
like,
a
okay,
room would be
this
set
is
up.
the dining room, this
Right.
is the living room. And that's a really great tool too, that if you don't have furniture in
Right.
it to help that, to help people to
Sure.
understand what each room is. Because it is, even for me, going through pictures
Right.
I've taken,
Like
when it's all
what room was
gray,
that?
it's
Yeah.
all the same flooring. Yeah, it's like, what room was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
So,
think the last piece really touching on that incorporating showcasing everything the best and something that we both do is, you mentioned being part of, it's not just selling the house, right? It's selling the lifestyle and the part of the
yes.
community and the amenities and things of that nature.
Yes.
So, that's something that we both do. I
Mhm.
incorporate in my listings, she incorporates in her photography
Yeah.
services for her listings,
Right.
is, to add the neighborhood amenities. Is there a beautiful pool? Is there a great
Mhm.
playground? Is the middle school right there in front of it?
Mhm.
Things like that that are important and a selling feature
Right.
of not just the house but the lifestyle,
Right.
the community, and the area.
Right.
So she does a great job of photographing that. we do a great job of putting that in our
That's
listings
a
as
good
well.
question to ask too. If you're a
Hmm.
buyer interviewing an
Right.
agent,
Or
is,
seller.
or yeah, seller, yes. The whole buyer interviewing an agent's a whole nother podcast.
Right.
But no, if you're a seller and, that's something to ask your agent, because your community,
Sure.
you know what you love about living there.
Right.
And, you want to highlight those things. And
Sure.
sometimes your agent just doesn't offer that or doesn't know. And that's a good conversation
Hmm.
to have.
Do you include my community pictures and information and things of
Right.
that nature?
Right. Or
Um,
you could say there's a block down the road.
sure.
Are you going to include a photo of that?
Yes.
And
If yeah, that's a huge,
yes.
we're in Charleston. We have a huge amount of people that like boating, whether it's
Yeah.
lake or, the
Mhm.
ocean. And yes, there's a good amount of properties that, located by the community dock or, located right next to New Dorchester County Park,
Park.
she
Right.
can incorporate like a picture of the park sign,
Right.
just things of that nature that are
Right. And
important.
aerial photography can
Hmm.
be a huge part of that too.
Drone
Right.
footage,
Yeah. Drone footage showing, its location
location,
to the beach, the lake,
right.
a park. It doesn't even have to be anything spectacular, but
Sure.
if you're in a neighborhood and, like Avondale and Charleston,
Mhm.
it's such a cute little community. You could have
Walking
a home.
distance to
Right.
the
We can
restaurants and the
throw that
bars and
drone up and we can show like the
show
house is here
here
and
and
here's
right here you can walk
mellow
to
mushroom,
have your
right?
coffee. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a really great feature too that a good agent is
Sure.
going to know to incorporate into that listing.
So all important things to think about, to
Yeah,
do, to interview with when you're looking for a listing
right. And if
agent to
you
sell your
are an
house.
agent, I think these are lots of good little tips
Sure.
to help you
Think
grow and
about
things to
incorporate.
incorporate. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely. So that is all for today. We will be coming to you live tomorrow for a really special treat.
I'm excited.
We are.
So this is like a true test, I think, of, can we pull this off? Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think something about today is we are only drinking coffee. So
It's not wine time.
it's
We are
not
not doing
wine.
the happy hour wind down.
Yeah, not yet. Not yet.
So, all right. Well, thank you for joining us today. We look forward to bringing you lots of valuable information on the
Yeah.
area, lifestyle, how to buy, sell, all that good stuff, with also through the eye of the photographer as well.
Photographer.
So,
Yeah, this is so fun.
yes. So, have a great day, and we will see you soon.
Bye.